So last time we were talking, we talked about getting started and that mindset. And then now I want to ask you about that small steps. Like, how do you keep going? How do you not stop?
Yeah, it's been such a journey for me because I think everybody handles everything differently, and understanding that is a hard part at first because you'll see certain people have successes in one way and you kind of want to do that because you're seeing success there, but it doesn't work for everybody. And for me, I learned that when I break things down into those smaller steps and those smaller increments, they don't become overwhelming to me. A lot of times, I think I'll use fear, or we'll have anxiety and it'll stop us from doing things, especially if it's in that big mindset. And for me, my journey of feeling good, that's a big deal to me.
Mhm.
But I didn't want it to stop, and I didn't want to not start because I was afraid of it. So I found that if I broke it down into smaller increments, and smaller steps, and even a smaller timeline, it made the journey so much easier for me.
Yeah, I agree. And I think that the motivation doesn't come before getting started. The motivation comes as you're taking those small steps and celebrating those small victories, whether they're scale victories or non scale victories. I remember my first week, by the end of the week, how great I felt just because I was doing something really good for me. I had more energy. Um, I did see the scale move in 1 week, and I felt accomplished just that I had showed up for myself every day. So in the beginning, the goals were very different than maybe what the goals look like now, and the steps were different, but it was still just taking things almost one day, 1 week, 2 to 3 weeks at a time.
And I think that is such a great point because, like I said, we oftentimes get so stuck. And for me, I found the same thing, that motivation came not on day one, but it came on day seven. And I'm so thankful for the support that we had, for each other and in our group as well. Because when I was watching you show up, it made me want to show up for myself as well. And then at the end of week one, I felt that drive to continue, and then I was able to add on a little bit more. And when we were talking about that big goal, and that big goal for me is feeling healthy overall, all around, I had to start with my physical health. I had to start somewhere. I couldn't do it all at once. And being able to incorporate as much as we had over the past 5 years, I wouldn't be here today if I didn't start it in the small steps, because it's
Mhm.
too big of a deal. But understanding that we have our whole life to move forward, is such a great thing, as opposed to saying, well, somebody else did it in a week, so I should do it in a week. There really is no magic pill. It's each person having their own desire to move forward, and having those tools and the support to get them on their journey. Each journey I think is a little different, but I think the support is always going to be the same.
That's very true. And I want to ask you, what about when you're taking small steps but you don't reach your goal? So how do you deal with a setback or a failure?
I think that's a really great question too. And a recent goal that I've had is a running goal. I was an athlete all through high school. I know you were too. We got to play soccer together in high school and college, and having life go on, and getting married and having kids, and I kind of lost all of that, but my desire and my mentality was still there, and I wanted to get back into it. And I had the desire recently to run a half marathon, and I couldn't get back into it. I couldn't get my head into the mindset of 13.6 miles. So I had to switch my goal and understand for myself that my end goal is still there. But if I start with my 13.6 miles, I'm not going to start. So what I've been doing recently, the past 3 weeks, I said, one day a week I'm going to run. And when I run, I've been saying I'm going to jog, because I'm mentally telling myself that it's okay for me to run and walk if I need to. I just need to get out there. And then this week, more specifically, I set myself up to have to do it twice. And it was so hard to get there, but I was able to tell myself and lean in and use my support to be able to push through. So once I have a bigger goal, if I can't make that bigger goal, learning the strategies to make it into those smaller goals has been something that has enabled me to become so successful, with reaching and crushing my goals.
And I think that giving ourselves grace is a big thing. So
Yeah.
not looking out at things, looking at those stumbling points or those failures as permanent. Just because we fell doesn't mean we quit, and trying to pick ourselves up and continue on. And I think that the next time we talk, we should talk more about that, like that unsticking part, that, failing and using that failure.
Yeah, and I love the quote that you don't fail unless you stop trying. So we'll talk more about that next time.
All right.